Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful story from the Quran, all about the idea of justice. It's a story that kind of challenges our modern ideas about crime and punishment, and honestly, it all centers around one big, timeless question.
That's a question societies have wrestled with forever, right? Is justice all about quick payback, that whole eye for an eye thing? Or is it something different, something more deliberate, more measured? Well, the story we're about to unpack offers a really fascinating answer. So let's get right into it.
So the main idea we're looking at today is that, from a Quranic perspective, justice isn't about what happens in the heat of the moment. It's not something delivered by an angry mob. No, it's presented as a very precise divine process. It's all about understanding the huge difference between someone doing wrong on purpose and someone just making a human mistake.
And to really get our heads around this, we're going to do a deep dive, a case study you could call it, into the judgment of a man named Samiri. Now, this guy was a major instigator. He was someone who deliberately led his whole community down the wrong path. We're going to break down his trial verse by verse just to see how this principle of measured justice actually plays out.
Okay, so our story starts with a confrontation. You can think of this as Act 1, the inquiry. This is where the whole process of justice gets started, and it's all in the 95th verse of the Quranic chapter, Taha.
Here's the original Arabic text, and these are the very first words spoken to Samiri by the prophet Moses. Now, Moses has just come back to find his people worshiping a golden calf, a calf that Samiri himself built.
And the translation is just so simple and direct. What is the matter with you, O Samiri? Notice that it's not an accusation. It's not a condemnation. It is pure and simple a question.
And this first step is so important. It establishes a fundamental principle. Divine justice doesn't start with pointing fingers. It starts with an inquiry. The goal isn't to punish right away. It's to understand the motivation, the why. I mean, it shows that even someone who has misled an entire community is first addressed directly. They're given a chance to explain themselves before any judgment is passed. That's a really powerful idea.
All right, so this brings us to Act 2, the rationale. Samiri has been asked to explain himself, and his answer, well, it tells us so much about the psychology of doing wrong.
Here we have Samiri's response in the original Arabic. And it's a pretty complex justification, really. It's his attempt to rationalize a massive mistake.
Now, in English, his defense is fascinating. He starts off by claiming he has some kind of special, superior insight. I saw what they did not see. But then he immediately admits that this so-called insight was really just self-deception, saying, "And thus did my soul entice me." He's basically trying to have it both ways.
And this really gets to the heart of the psychology of sin, doesn't it? Samiri's defense is a textbook case of rationalization. He justifies what he did by claiming he had some special insight, framing his misdirection almost as a form of guidance. The Quran uses this very moment to draw a sharp contrast. True guidance comes from a divine source, whereas this kind of self-deception comes from the ego.
So what we have here is this really clear conflict. On one side, you've got Samiri's claim of special knowledge, a justification that's just born from his own ego. And on the other side, you've got the unwavering Quranic principle that true guidance is divine. His admission that his soul enticed him isn't an excuse at all. It's a confession that really highlights his personal accountability.
So we've had the inquiry, and we've had the rationale. Now we get to Act 3, the consequence. And just like everything we've seen so far, the judgment isn't some emotional outburst. It's a sentence that is incredibly specific and totally proportional to the crime.
Here's the verdict, delivered in Arabic. After Samiri has had his say, the judgment is pronounced.
And the translation reveals this profound two-part sentence. First, there's a consequence for him in this life. He's to become an outcast, forced to say, no contact. But then there's also an eternal consequence. You have an appointment you will not fail to keep.
See how this isn't just a random punishment? It's perfectly proportional. The worldly consequence fits the crime exactly. The man who corrupted the community is now cut off from it. He's isolated. And that eternal consequence is a reminder that our accountability goes way beyond this life. It's a judgment that is both super precise and all-encompassing.
And this brings us right back to the central theme we started with. The entire process, from that first question to the final, very specific sentence, is the absolute opposite of chaotic mob vengeance. It is deliberate, it is reasoned, and it is divinely executed justice. So, what are the timeless lessons we can pull from this short but incredibly packed story? Let's try and distill the key principles of justice that Samiri's trial really shines a light on.
This story really lays out a clear blueprint for justice. It shows us that due process is absolutely essential. Everyone gets a chance to speak. It teaches us that trying to rationalize our actions doesn't just make our responsibility disappear. It demonstrates that true justice is proportional. It fits the punishment to the crime, both here in this life and in the next. And finally, it really emphasizes precision, making a clear distinction between intentional harm, like what Samiri did, and simple human error.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. This story isn't just some ancient tale. It's a lesson in how we handle things. You know, in a world that so often encourages quick, emotional, and very public condemnation, this story asks us to think about a different path. How can we, in our own judgments of others and maybe even of ourselves, prioritize a measured, thoughtful response over a purely emotional reaction? It's a powerful question to reflect on. Thanks so much for joining me.